What's going on YouTube? It's Tej back again with another video, and today we're talking about the Seattle Seahawks, a part of our 2021 NFL season preview series, starting to wind things down. This is the final team in the NFC West, then we're on to the NFC North, then we are all done. Crazy long journey, been pumping these videos out so we can get them done before the NFL season starts. Hopefully you're all enjoying it. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you do, please hit that like button. It would help me and my channel out a ton. And if you're new to the channel and want to help us get to 300 subscribers, like what you see on your screen, hit that subscribe button. Comment your thoughts on the Seattle Seahawks down in the comments section. How many wins do you think they get this year? What are some goals, some X factors, some games you're looking forward to watching them play? Love to have your thoughts. So let's talk about the Seahawks down below. So I'll come out and say it, I'm a little low on the Seahawks this year. I mean, I like Russell Wilson, and he's obviously a great quarterback, but they have a lot of question marks at very important positions, so I'll talk about that here as this video goes on. But win range, 8-12. Russ is so good that gives you a pretty high floor, right? It's hard to imagine this team having less than 8 wins this year. And honestly, 8 wins is a pretty low floor compared to where most people see the Seahawks, so maybe even I'm at a lower percentage point. I am going 9-8 in my updated season predictions. I just think this team's defense is going to hold it back big time. I think Russ is going to put up some gaudy numbers. The offense is going to be awesome to watch. Must-see TV week in and week out. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Gerald Everett, who we'll talk about later. Fantasy stars in the making. Chris Carson, if he can stay healthy. Same deal there. I think the offensive line, a little old, but if it's healthy, it's a good unit. And I like Shane Waldron coming in from Los Angeles, the Rams organization. Now their new OC. I think that adds a whole lot of horizontal movement and things to just try to help hide an aging offensive line and where they might have some deficiencies, but also just do something a little different. Modernize the offense just a little bit, but also it'll feature a lot of running plays, which will make Pete Carroll happy. So everybody ideally is happy under that situation. Of course, talking in ideals, but this team's pass rush is a big question mark. Like, Carlos Dunlap is probably the most stable, consistent, guaranteed player to give you some production. But I mean, 30-plus-year-old Carlos Dunlap is not what he once was. And even when he was in his prime, he wasn't a game wrecker, right? After that, we'll talk about Darrell Taylor. LJ Collier hopefully can take a step forward. Kerry Hyder's been more of a run stopper for most of his career, drafted in 2014. So we've seen him in the league for quite some time now. Maybe he gains some pass rushing skills, but they lose Jaron Reed. So as much as I like Poona Ford, he's more of a run stopper. Maybe he has some pass rush upside. There's a lot of question marks. I just don't think this team generates enough pressure. And this team is weak in the secondary outside of the safeties. Like Quandre Diggs, Jamal Adams, those guys are studs. But Ahkello Witherspoon, DJ Reed, who we'll talk about later, 2 young corners that they're relying on. And overall, it's just a position that is a huge question mark. And you want people to hide a bad cornerback group. Kind of like, think about if the Jets had a healthy Carl Lawson, they might be able to get enough pass rush to hide where they're a little deficient. Or even going back to, the 49ers last year, they still did a pretty good job generating pass rush, and it allowed them to hide some of their weaknesses in the back end. But overall, this team lacks pass rush and cornerback play. I think that's going to lead to them giving up a ton of points. Now, I do think it got better down the stretch. And if anybody, honestly, if you were to ask me which core or which unit I think actually is more likely to take a step forward this year, I'd probably tell you it's Ahkello Witherspoon and DJ Reed compared to Darrell Taylor, Carlos Dunlap, LJ Collier. I think you're ultimately going to get better production, and they're more likely to take a step forward, and good coverage could help the pass rush. So we'll see, but they're going to definitely need one of those 2 areas to step up. Otherwise, 9-8, that's about as good as it'll get, because this team will drop 30, but they'll give up 35, whatever, just arbitrary numbers there. So I'm a little low on this team, largely because of their defense, but realistic goal should be make the playoffs. That's this team's goal year in and year out. It shouldn't be any difference this year. Reach goal, fix the defense. And it's not necessarily a defense that needs to be elite, right? Like, I'm not saying Seattle needs to have a top 8 defense to go to the Super Bowl. They just need to be, 15 to 20, honestly, and this offense can be really good. So if they're just average to above, that's going to get the job done. And if you fix the defense, you become a serious contender in my eyes. Because, like I said, this team's going to pour points on the board. They just have got to find a way to limit opposing offenses. Like, you're not going to completely stop them given the talent and the structure of that defense in its current state. But there's still enough talent there to, maybe limit it to 24 points a game. And your offense can definitely get you up and over, assuming the Shane Waldron offense clicks with the talent on the field. X factors that can help make him do that. Gerald Everett, like that signing a lot. He follows Shane Waldron from the Rams to go to Seattle. Additionally, while, Will Dissly's had some big games, and, Greg Olsen was there for a little bit, Jimmy Graham had some okay years, not quite the level of production in New Orleans, but, he was solid for a couple of years, especially once they started using him as, like, an actual receiving threat instead of keeping him in line and forcing him to block. But Gerald Everett's an athletic, new age tight end that Russell Wilson just has not had. And you look at the two guys on the outside, right? DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, lock them in, studs. One of the best receiving duos the NFL has to offer. And I like the drafting of Dwayne Eskridge in this year's draft class. Maybe a bit of a reach, but he really fits Shane Waldron's horizontal movement. I think would be a great addition to those jet sweep plays, or even just putting somebody in motion and making the defense key in on Eskridge. But between Eskridge and Gerald Everett, that's a really solid duo that could be a number 3 target, essentially. And their production gives you a really high ceiling to go on, in addition to Metcalf, Lockett, even Chris Carson catching the football. So I like Gerald Everett a ton. I think him supplemented with Dwayne Eskridge gives this team, a combined third weapon of sorts, and it really takes this offense to a whole new level, assuming Everett continues to be the player that I've seen him be with the Rams. Other side of the football, this is obviously the biggest discussion point when it comes to Seattle's. Can they get better on defense? Darrell Taylor's going to be playing some off-ball linebacker, but he's still going to be used as a defensive end. I was reading some reports about how he's going to be a little more versatile in the scheme, similar to what he did at Tennessee. Different positions, but how Tennessee asked him to do a lot of different things, and he's comfortable doing that. Kind of what he elaborated on in that Seahawks article, but obviously it's coming from the Seattle team itself, so it's going to be pretty favorable. But he's a guy who maybe a little early where the Seahawks took him, but the talent was there, and there's definitely some upside. And if there's anybody that I think on this roster could give you an unexpected jump in sack, pressure, hurry, whatever stat you want to look at, production, I think it's Darrell Taylor. He is the most likely guy to take that leap forward, because you know what Carlos Dunlap is. And LJ Collier, I'm sorry, maybe I'm wrong here, but I'm just more inclined to trust Taylor compared to Collier. But I could end up being wrong, but especially if using this off-ball linebacker and defensive end position, it's kind of like pseudo what the Cowboys are doing with Micah Parsons. So I'm interested how these 4-3 defenses might start to use these versatile, athletic, but really solid pass rushers, at least with their skill set, right? Like Taylor can be a good pass rusher. Micah Parsons really is. So I'm interested to see how that experiment plays out. So that's part of the reason I have him here in the X Factors. And then Ahkello Witherspoon, DJ Reed, cheating here. Two guys that at the end of last year were definitely playing better football than they were at the beginning of the year, especially DJ Reed. He got substantially better. And they're both young guys with some potential to tap into. So if they continue to get where they can be, right, if they can continue to progress and take steps in the right direction, those are solid corners to have on the outside. Then you have Trey Flowers, who maybe he's just a rotational corner. You take Trey Brown. Later rounds this year, he's definitely going to be more of a nickel, but he's a guy I think that can play right away, just given, a little bit older coming out of Oklahoma. All in all, if Ahkello Witherspoon and DJ Reed can just be average, that's an improvement to what we saw at specifically the beginning of the year last year for Seattle, where that defense was just getting torched. Dak Prescott looked like he was, going to throw for 5,000 yards in that one game alone. I mean, hyperbole to the roof, but that secondary was just putrid. And especially if they're going to have to use Jamal Adams in a pass rushing way, if he's going to lead this team in sacks again with 9.5, that's taking him away from deep coverage duties, where Quandre Diggs is pretty good as well. But I know Adams wasn't great in coverage last year, but that dude can play some deep zone. He can play in the line of scrimmage. He can be that hook zone guy. Don't let his injuries fool you. That dude could play in man or zone coverage. He's super talented. He's one of the best safeties, maybe the most talented safety in football. Him and Derwin James, when they're healthy, to me, those are the guys. And that's from a Steelers fan who stands Minkah Fitzpatrick beyond all belief. But with that said, if they are going to use Jamal Adams in a pass rush heavy role, more pressure than on the shoulders of Witherspoon and Reed to, be that much better, right? Because you're not going to have Jamal Adams there to bail you out. So, of course, they have to be X factors. Some games to watch. Week 3 at Minnesota. These are two teams that right now I don't see the Seahawks win the division. I don't have the Vikings winning the NFC North. So these are two teams vying for potential wild card seedings or a wild card spot in general. Early game, plus it's a road contest. So if Seattle can come away with the W there, you're always happy to win some road games against a very competitive and playoff caliber team, in my eyes, in the Minnesota Vikings. Week 7 against New Orleans Saints. This is not a game that I originally had on there, but it's Monday Night Football, and the way Jameis Winston looked last night, I'm recording this the day after that Monday Night Football game where Winston looked fantastic, and Marquez Callaway makes that ridiculous grab on the connection in the end zone. I've been fading the Saints, but maybe I'll start working my way back into their good graces, because Sean Payton had that offense looking right. So, with that said, if that's the New Orleans Saints we're seeing on Monday Night Football against the Seattle Seahawks, where Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll are 14-2 in primetime games, That is must-see television, primetime, Monday Night Football. That's a narrative game if I've ever seen one. And it could be another battle for playoff positioning, right? Like if the Saints hit their stride and they hit their peak for what they can be this year, they're probably not winning the NFC South. So fighting for a wild card spot, them and the Seahawks could be clashing for seeding or a position itself. Same thing I said about the Vikings. Honorable mention of Week 10 against Green Bay. Duh. Like obviously you're going against maybe the second best team in the NFC. That's a game to watch. Plus, they play the Packers right after their bye week, so that's one where they're on the road, but they could steal that one. So honorable mention there, Week 10. But Week 12, another Monday Night Football game. So again, another narrative game. Everybody's going to be watching. This is going to feed headlines for 3 weeks, right? I always talk about these narrative games, these primetime games, and that's because they write headlines that last longer than your 4 o'clock, CBS broadcast. And that's no disrespect to that broadcast, but you just don't have as many eyes, right? It's more regionally based. So the headlines out in Seattle might still talk about that game weeks and weeks on out, but in the eyes of the public, I live in Virginia, a Monday Night Football game is going to carry more weight for people in my region of the country compared to out in Seattle, where obviously the Seahawks are a big deal. So Week 12, you play host to the Washington football team. You get them coming across the country. That's a big bolster. And again, prime time, Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll, they've been fantastic in those settings. And again, this could be a playoff position battle. I think Washington wins the division, but maybe it's the Cowboys. And same thing I've said about the Vikings and the Saints. It could be Washington football team versus Seattle, depending on who's going to be in the wild card, who goes up, who goes down, who's in, who's out. But also, this is just a battle of strengths, right? Seattle's got this explosive, high-powered offense. They even patched up the offensive line to make Russell Wilson a little bit happier with his situation versus Washington football team, who, if everybody's healthy, the best defense in the league, in my opinion, is the best pass rush in the league. So is Russell Wilson running around fighting to try to find any sort of window to make a throw from against that pass rush? Is Chase Young hawking him down all night long? That's something to keep your eye on. Additionally, DK Metcalf versus someone like William Jackson III. I think Metcalf's a better football player, but can William Jackson III slow him down? On the other side of the football, maybe it's Kendall Fuller, maybe it's Benjamin St. Juste who's been getting a lot of buzz in the Washington camp against Tyler Lockett. That's an intriguing matchup. All that to say, great offense, great defense, Monday Night Football, yeah. You should definitely watch this game. But that's going to do it for my 2021 Seattle Seahawks season preview video. Tell me what you think about this team. I know I'm probably on the low end of the spectrum for how they are judged, but I'd love to have your thoughts. How many wins do you think they get? Who are some X factors, some games you look forward to watch? All of it, everything on your screen. Let's talk about it down in the comments section. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit that like button. It really would help me out a ton. And if you're new to the channel, like what you saw, please consider hitting that subscribe button. That's all I ask, but only do it if you enjoyed today's video, of course. But that's going to do it for today's vid. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, my name is Tej, and I'm signing off.